She refused the Alpha King's crown. His wolf knelt before her until she accepted their fated bond. The throne room smelled like cedar smoke and old stone. Elara had expected marble floors and gold banners. Instead, she found a plain stone hall, lit by torches, and rows of people watching her with strange golden eyes. It felt like walking into a dream that belonged to someone else. She had been brought here against her will, driven through the mountains in a black car with tinted windows, and told only that the Alpha King wished to see her. Nobody had explained why. Nobody had asked if she wanted to come. King Rurik did not stand when she entered. He did not need to. Something about the way he sat made the whole room feel smaller, as if the air itself had grown heavier just because he was breathing it. "You smell like fear," he said, "and stubbornness. That is an interesting mix." "It's called being kidnapped," Elara answered. "Most people find that upsetting." A quiet laugh moved through the crowd behind him, but Rurik did not smile. He rose slowly and came down the steps of his throne, unhurried, like a man who already knew how this would end. He was tall, with dark hair and a small scar above one eyebrow. He was, without question, handsome in a way that made people forget their own names. Elara noticed this and chose, on purpose, to think about something else. She looked at the buttons on her coat instead. There were 6 of them. One was loose. "You are my mate," he said simply, as if stating the weather. "No," she said. "Thank you, but no." The room went silent. It was the kind of silence that has weight to it. "No one refuses the bond," Rurik said, his voice low. "Then I suppose I'll be the first." They gave her a room with a locked door and, strangely, an unlocked window. It told her something important, that they did not truly fear her leaving, because there was nowhere for her to go. Mountains stretched out for miles in every direction, and the nearest town was hours away on foot. She did not try to run. Instead, she sat by the window and thought about her mother, a human woman who had once loved a wolf and had lost everything because of it. Her mother never spoke of those years, but sometimes, late at night, Elara had heard her crying softly in the next room. She pushed the memory away and focused on the shapes of the mountains instead, dark against a darker sky. The next morning, something happened that no one in the castle had ever seen before. King Rurik knelt, not as part of any ceremony, not for any tradition. He came to her door, and when she opened it, he lowered himself onto one knee, right there in the hallway, in front of 2 guards who would talk about this moment for years to come. "My wolf will not rise," he said through gritted teeth, "until you accept the bond. He has already chosen you. I cannot undo that, even if I wanted to." She stared at him, unsure if this was some kind of trick. "Get up," she said. "I can't." "That's ridiculous. Stand up." "You don't understand how this works," he said, and for the first time, something cracked in his calm voice. "This isn't a title I'm offering you. It isn't a crown or land or riches. It's something older than all of that. My wolf sees you as his other half, and until you accept it, he refuses to let me lead as I should." She noticed, then, that his hands were trembling, not from kneeling on hard stone, from something else entirely. "You hate this," she said quietly. "I hate many things today," he admitted, "but mostly, I hate that I cannot force this to be simple." Word of the kneeling spread through the castle by evening, and by the end of the week, it had reached every pack in the north. Leaders and warriors began arriving at the gates, curious to see if the rumors were true, that the great Alpha King had been brought to his knees by nothing more than a human woman's refusal. Rurik dealt with the pressure the way he dealt with everything, calmly, carefully, like a man rebuilding a wall stone by stone, even as it kept falling apart. Elara, on the other hand, spent her days learning the names of the kitchen staff, walking the gardens, and refusing, on principle, to be impressed by any of it. She did not want to be a queen. She did not want a throne, a crown, or a wolf who had decided her fate before she'd had any say in the matter. But she also noticed things, small things. She noticed that Rurik always made sure she had food before he ate his own. She noticed that when the younger pack members teased her about being the king's stubborn human, he silenced them with a single look. She noticed that despite his power, he never once raised his voice at her, not even when she refused him for the 10th time. It was on the 7th day, in the training yard, that something shifted between them. He was trying, clumsily, because even kings can be bad teachers, to show her how to hold a wooden practice sword properly. His hand closed gently over hers to correct her grip, and suddenly her chest tightened in a way she didn't expect. For a moment, she wasn't in the training yard anymore. She was 11 years old again, remembering a hand gripping her wrist too tightly, and her mother's voice calling out from another room. "Don't," she said, and her voice came out strange, almost like someone else's. Rurik released her hand immediately, stepping back as though he'd been burned. He didn't ask questions. He didn't demand to know what was wrong. He simply looked away, giving her space, letting the silence settle without forcing her to explain herself. "I'm not afraid of you," she said, though they both knew that wasn't entirely true. "I never thought you were," he replied gently, though that wasn't entirely true either. Neither of them spoke of it again that day. The lesson continued a few minutes later as if nothing had happened, but something had shifted quietly between them, something neither one tried to name. Over the next several weeks, Elara began to see a different side of the Alpha King. She saw him settle disputes between his warriors with patience instead of anger. She saw him sit with an elderly wolf who had lost her mate, simply listening to her stories for hours without complaint. She saw him, late one night, carrying a young pup back to its worried mother after it had wandered too far from the den. He was not the tyrant she had imagined when she first arrived. He was something far more complicated, a leader who carried the weight of his entire pack on his shoulders, yet still found time to kneel before a woman who had done nothing but reject him. One evening, as autumn winds swept through the mountains, she found him alone on the castle's north wall, staring out at the darkening horizon. "Why me?" she asked, coming to stand beside him. He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know," he admitted. "The bond doesn't explain itself, it simply knows. My wolf recognized something in you the moment you walked into that throne room, something I still don't fully understand myself. That's not a very satisfying answer." "No," he agreed, "it isn't." She looked out at the mountains, feeling the cold wind against her face. "My mother loved a wolf once," she said quietly. "It didn't end well. She never really talked about it, but I think it broke something in her that never healed." Rurik turned to look at her, his expression unreadable. "I'm sorry," he said simply. He did not press for more details, and she was grateful for that. "I'm not looking for someone to fix what happened to her," Elara continued. I don't want to become someone else's story. I want to be the one who decides what happens to me." "That is exactly what I want for you as well," he said, and something in his voice told her he meant it completely. They stood together in silence after that, watching the stars begin to appear one by one. As the weeks passed, Elara found herself slowly beginning to trust him, not because he demanded it, but because he never once tried to force it. He continued to kneel each morning outside her door, a strange and humbling ritual that the entire castle had grown used to, though it never stopped being remarkable. She began joining him for meals. She began asking about his pack's history, his responsibilities, the weight of leadership he carried every single day. She found herself, more than once, laughing at something he said, surprised at how easily it came. And yet, she still hesitated to accept the bond fully. Something inside her held back, afraid of losing herself the way her mother once had. One night, unable to sleep, she wandered down to the castle library, searching for something to occupy her restless mind. There, tucked away on a high shelf, she found old records of her mother's pack, documents detailing years long past, including her mother's name among lists of former members. She read through the night, learning pieces of a story she had never been told. Her mother had not been abandoned by her wolf mate, as she had always assumed. He had died protecting the pack during a terrible storm, leaving her mother alone and heartbroken, unable to bear staying in a place that reminded her of everything she had lost. It wasn't cruelty that had broken her mother. It was grief. Elara sat with that truth for a long time, feeling something inside her shift and settle into place. The following morning, she found Rurik in his usual place outside her door, already kneeling, already waiting. "Ask me again," she said. He looked up at her, surprised. "I've stopped asking." Ask me anyway. Slowly, he rose to his feet, standing before her fully for the first time since that first morning. Elara, he said, just her name, nothing more, offered carefully, like something precious. Yes, she said, I accept the bond. For a moment, he simply stared at her, as though unsure he had heard correctly. Then, something in his shoulders relaxed completely, releasing tension she hadn't realized he had been carrying all this time. Outside, faintly, she heard the pack begin to howl, not in wild celebration, but in something quieter, deeper, relief, recognition, belonging. You don't have to become anyone's story but your own, Rurik said softly. That is a promise I intend to keep. I'm holding you to that, she replied. He smiled then, truly smiled, for what felt like the first time since she had arrived. I wouldn't expect anything less from you. Standing there, with the mountains stretching endlessly around them, and the pack's voices rising into the morning air, Elara realized that accepting this bond did not mean losing herself. It meant, finally, being seen for exactly who she was, stubborn, cautious, and unwilling to be anyone's shadow, and being chosen for those very reasons. She did not feel like a queen standing there. She felt, simply, like herself. And for the first time since arriving in that cold stone castle, that felt like enough.